Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Grovest Rencell presentation this morning. Thank you for joining us. This morning, we're going to have an informal discussion with Adriaan Erasmus from Rencell, but it gives us great pleasure as Grovest to host this webinar. Who is Grovest? Paul, can I ask that you play a little video, get a feel of who Grovest is, and then we'll kick on to the Rencell presentation. So thank you, Paul. Adriaan, welcome to the Rencell presentation. Adriaan is the fund manager of Rencell. He's been involved in solar energy for the last 4 years, extremely passionate about it, and has been involved in setting up the Rencell Solar Fund. And it gives us great pleasure to have you on the show or this webinar this morning, Adriaan, where we can actually present about Rencell and its, what it offers, and particularly for investment into the Section 12J Rencell share class. So over to you, Adriaan.
Morning, Jeff. Thanks for having me this morning. If we can get started on the presentation. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so I would like to start off with who is Rencell and what do we do? Rencell is a Section 12J registered fund aimed at advancing the adoption of renewable energy in the residential sector in South Africa. Now, you might wonder why the residential sector. And the residential sector is one of the largest energy consumers in South Africa. Now, in spite of this, there are very few services or offerings available to it to facilitate its adoption of renewable energy in that sector. Now, when being compared to the commercial and industrial sectors, which for quite some time now have had a number of offerings and services ranging from PPAs, finance options, or rent-to-owns, it's evident that there was a lack of available options in the market. Now, in the same way that a renewable energy investment into the commercial and industrial sectors would be underpinned by an asset and creates a long-term revenue stream, this asset class has those same characteristics. In addition to that, this asset class has also proven to be very COVID and recession resilient. And in recent history, we've actually seen during lockdowns, when people are forced to stay at home, that the system is able to perform better than it otherwise would have been able to. It actually increases income to the investors. Now, the benefits of this kind of investment are numerous. Now, namely, there is no cash outlay to the residents of a body corporate that we build the system at. Now, that has always been a big stumbling block, is the significant capital investment that's required to adopt this technology in the sector specifically. So what we do is we come to the body corporate, we build the installation, and we get a monthly income from them. And we aim at achieving a cost replacement price point. So they would pay the same as what they otherwise would have paid had they stuck with the municipality or ESCOM electrical connection. So in summary, then the residents win, that they're off the grid, they're not affected by load shedding or power failures. The environment wins. There's less CO2 being emitted, less water that's needed in power stations. South Africa wins. There's less load on the grid, and that helps to reduce the severity of load shedding and reduce the probability of load shedding. And investors win. They earn a 5% annual dividend yield and a 20% IRR on risk capital. Now, the investment underpinnings of what we do is namely under two contracts. Now, the power purchase agreement and an asset rental. So the power purchase agreement is for a 20-year period, and the reason we do this is because the solar assets, they are designed to last 25 years and they're warranted for 20. So to mitigate risk to both the consumers and the investors, we only contract for the 20-year period, and the same goes for the asset rental. While the battery system may have a 15-year design life, it's only warranted for 10. So we opted to go with the 10-year rental there. Now, this investment creates a monthly cash flow, and that reduces any kind of credit risk that there may be. And we also promote the body corporates that we enter into these contracts with to actually adopt a prepaid metering standard. And this further helps to reduce any kind of credit risk that there may be from non-paying residents, as people need to pay before they get access to that electricity. Now, this asset class is also very highly liquid. So in the event that we need to create liquidity, that option is always available to us. Now, this investment does create a long-term desirable cash flow, and these cash flows can be securitized and sold on. They can be sold as a going concern at a discount rate substantially below that of what it was originally signed at, and creating further upside for the investors, or even piecemeal portions of the projects can be sold to diversify our portfolio and gain more exposure to other projects. Now, Rencell currently has 3 projects in the pipeline, ranging from 6 to 12 million rand for the largest complex, and we're looking to raise a further 20 million rand to fund this further expansion of ours. Now, we have proven the model to date on both a small and a large scale. To date, we have been operating a hybrid installation in Sandton in a complex of about 20 units. This has been operating for almost 2 years now, and we've avoided in excess of 150 power failures because of this. And the benefits are numerous and a lot we were not expecting initially. The property values have actually gone up. The rental incomes have gone up when the trend in the area was actually for it to go down over the last 5 to 6 years. And this was due to the fact that the benefit of being able to come home, you know you're going to have power, you know you're going to be able to cook your food, charge your laptop, work from home if necessary, has really added to the lifestyle benefits of living there, and property values and the rental incomes have really showed that. And to date, we have also been able to pay all of our dividends on time as promised. So that concludes the brief presentation, just to catch everybody up as to what Rencell is and what we do, and what we offer to both investors and consumers. Jeff, back to you, and then we can proceed from there.
The intention today was to just have a little brief overview of the fund, which you have done quite succinctly, and then to just open it up to an informal chat where I'll ask you a whole lot of different questions, and hopefully the people on the webinar would be able to get some idea of what your offering is all about. Also, to the people on the webinar, please feel free, use the chat button to send through any questions that you may require, and then I will obviously pose that to Adriaan, and hopefully we can answer your questions that you need answers to. So let's start, Adriaan. I mean, you've been involved in the solar space for 4 years, as we spoke about over here. I mean, why the solar space?
Well, I've always enjoyed this, the idea of solar, the idea of making money from the sunshine. And I really do like what we can achieve with this, where we can go and reduce. So I think there's some feedback here. So I can.
Yeah, all good.
Okay. Sorry for that. So yeah, I started off in the renewable energy sector about 4 years ago. and there's been a lot of opportunities here. And, when I first started in the sector, we worked primarily in the industrial and commercial sector. It was a very boring place to work. It was very much the same for the last decade. And nobody had really innovated. It's been the same to the commercial PPA, to a big client. They look to save a couple of rand at the end of every month. And that was the only incentive. And the problem was always that the commercial and industrial players that got electricity at cost price, even subsidized by local government to try and stimulate job creation. And there wasn't much room for improvement. And early on, I realized that there was a significant...
Just turn your audio slightly down on the laptop because it's causing feedback.
Sorry?
Just turn your audio down slightly on
the... Okay. One second. Yeah, so early on I realized that there was a significant opportunity in the residential sector. Municipalities and Eskom have been exploiting private residents for quite some time, charging in excess of 100% markups on the power being on-sold to them. And because of this, we could come up with a much more creative solution. And also there would be a much greater value proposition for these consumers. And that led me down the path where I am now. And it's going very well, and I'm very proud of what I've achieved until today.
Okay, great. So, I mean, so you've adapted to the residential market because probably that's where the higher rate of tariff is charged. And probably also a lot of consumption is used in the early hours of the morning and in the later afternoons when the sun don't shine. But yet you've got your solar systems to work, which we'll get into a little bit later on your secret sauce. So, I mean, what changes have you seen in the market?
So the market has changed quite a bit in recent history. I mean, as little as 5 or 6 years ago, load shedding was an oddity. In the early 2010s, load shedding, we wouldn't have it for a couple of years at a time, and today it's become commonplace. Even just general power failures are being referred to as load shedding. People don't even bother following the news anymore, and that has created a lot of sentiment in the market. People are very keen to adopt new technologies to see how they can best their lives. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you're having to undergo extra expenditure in the month. When you don't have electricity at home, you need to eat out. You need to get takeaways, or you need to try and cook noodles over a fire or a gas stove. So it's not ideal. And I mean, other things have changed as well. 5, 6 years ago, there was no the tariffs were much lower. The technology wasn't quite where it is now, and because we didn't have as substantial tariffs and power failures, a lot of the technology just wasn't available in South Africa because there wasn't a need. And as the market has changed, as the environment has changed, a lot more technology has been introduced to South Africa, a lot more stuff here is available, and we've been able to take advantage of that and come up with a new and unique offering with massive potential and a lot of appetite in the market for that.
So I also understand that you've introduced batteries into your solution. You want to just expand on that?
So what we've managed to do with the batteries is we actually tie in at the bulk supply level. So we're actually at the transformer where the whole body corporate is supplied from. We tie in at that point, and we're able to do that at a much more cost-effective per household point than if everybody had their own individual system. So we come there with an industrial scale solution, and we're able to get to a price point where I mentioned before, and a cost replacement, and that has created substantial appetite for the product in the market, because for nothing more than a month, you can suddenly get the use of all of these assets. Something that was always reserved for the rich and famous is now suddenly available to the average guy on the street, and that's been a game changer. Initially, when we tried to offer grid-tied only systems, residents weren't so keen on it. You know, if the body corporate as a whole was going to save 10% on their power bill, the body corporates just weren't keen for the effort. votes and the SGMs and the AGMs. And I mean, in any body corporate, there's always going to be fighting and politics. And nobody was ever keen on doing that for a relatively small savings in a month. And when we proposed a battery solution to them, because that's at first what everyone was asking for, we found that the uptake was substantial. And it's really been a game changer for us and for the market.
So am I right in saying that your systems, you actually completely off the grid? You actually become an independent power producer and you don't need the sun to shine in order for the complex to operate?
That's correct. We make about 75 to 80% of the power that the body corporate would use on average. So some days when it's overcast, it's a bit less, and in ideal conditions in summer, we can get as high as 90%, 95% of all the power needed for that day would come from the solar system, and obviously during the evening from the batteries. And because we're using lithium batteries, they can be cycled on a daily basis. They've got thousands and thousands of cycle time life. So that has really changed what we can do. Now, we're not off the grid per se, but in the event of extended power outages, we can do quite a bit. We can turn off everybody's geysers remotely. We can load ration, so everybody gets a pro rata share of the battery system. And in doing so, we've actually had a recent incident in Boksburg where the power went out for 18 hours at a time for about a week because there was a major supply cable into town that was damaged. And 90% of the residents in that complex actually made it to the next morning as if there was no power failure. And that is essentially off grid. So those people, we could have made it for days or weeks at a time, where the people could have continued their lifestyle as per normal, irrespective of whether there was power coming into the complex or not. We could generate everything we needed, we could store what we needed, and the people could continue their lives as normal.
So am I right in saying that, or not am I right, I know for a fact that you have generated proprietary software, so remotely you can actually monitor the off-site installations at the various complexes?
Yeah, that's correct. We had to develop a wide array of technologies and techniques and come up with some unique solutions to problems. Ranging from people's geysers, some people abusing the battery system at night, putting on space heaters or air conditioners when they would then impede the service that was available to everybody else. So we had to come up with some unique solutions. We had to work with some partners to come up with controllers with unique software options, with internet connections that are specifically purposed for what we need. And in the implementation of this technology, we're able to enhance what the system can do to its full maximum. So we essentially make these systems actively managed from a remote site. Jeff, you've actually seen our control room. We've got a full-time control room operator. It looks like one of those power station control rooms at Eskom. And we can see live how much energy is being generated, what the battery charge is, the different temperatures of everybody's geysers, how much power the individual houses are using. And using all of that information, we're then able to ensure that everybody can get the most possible out of the system, even if there's days-long power failures, that the people can continue their lives like normal. And ultimately, that's our goal, to mitigate the impact of load shedding and power failures on people's lives, and they can continue as if it was never there.
Okay, so I've had some questions, and it's about the Eskom rate. And I understand that yesterday the Eskom rate was a hike was announced, about 15-odd%, which you can talk
Yes.
to. But I think the question is there, if you enter into an agreement with yourselves or your company or Rencell, do you lock into a specific price point, or is it actually linked to the Eskom rate? So in other words, is the off-taker getting any benefit?
So we actually link to the cost of living. So this is actually what we've done at the complexes that we've contracted with to date. There's obviously different options that are available. They can link it to the power utilities, escalations and costs, but they prefer to link it to CPI because Eskom has had a history for the last decade and a half of increasing at rates above CPI, and it's believed that it's going to continue to do that for the next decade at least. And in doing so, there's expected additional savings month to month in the future. So if even at present the system is not able to save them any money actively, in the future they can actually pay less than had they stuck with the municipality or Eskom while getting all the benefits of the solar system. Now, their tariff escalation that was announced yesterday afternoon of 15.63%. That's for an for Eskom connection, and municipalities still need to hear from NERSA what their escalations are going to be, but it will be in the range of closer to 17%, as municipalities often get a premium above what Eskom gets.
So am I right in saying, so you lock into a rate which is probably approximately the Eskom type rate, but then then the escalations are tied to a CPI, a fixed percentage, and therefore anything above CPI would flow to the benefit of the off-taker, and in addition, not only are you saving the money on the electricity, but you have security of electricity because of the installation which you provided.
Yes, yeah. So it's exactly that. There's a number of benefits, and we specifically targeting the cost replacement because people initially didn't really value it. It created some friction. Maybe 10 or 15% of residents are fearful that it may be as much as R1,000 a month per household additionally. So we needed to target a specific price point, make people comfortable that this is what it's going to cost. And once the system is up and running and they go through their first power failure or even the first week of power failures, everyone is so relieved and happy to have the system there, and the residents actually become quite possessive over the system. If somebody speaks poorly of it, then between themselves they go sort him out, so to speak.
Great. I mean, so I hope that offers answers to some of the questions that have been posed. There's a whole big growth of electric cars. All the car companies are now starting to build electric cars, have different models which are hybrids or fully electric. Now, by putting a system into a complex, will that benefit in time electric car users?
Yeah, so Jeff, that's quite a topical point at the moment. All major car manufacturers have actually come up with an electrification plan, and to date, that's been something that South Africa has been lagging behind on. We've got very few public charging stations, very few houses, if any, are actually appropriately suited to this. So a typical household, if you try to charge your car in your garage, it would take 2 days. And that's just not acceptable. That would take vastly too long, and it's also not practical. So what we've done is, in anticipation for this, we designed and spec'd our system in such a way that we would still be able to supply the amount of current needed to charge a car as if it was at a public charging station. We can also take advantage of time of use tariffs. We can allow people to charge their cars at off-peak rates or during the day with excess solar power. And then when a point in time does come where the households or a substantial portion of the households have adopted electric cars, we'll be able to increase the size of the solar system and actually offer them cheaper car charging rates than what are currently available. Because at public charging points, you're paying as much as R4 a kilowatt hour, R6 a kilowatt hour, whereas we would be able to offer rates of R1 or R1.50. So it'd be substantial savings to everybody, and the system is capable of being expanded. It's modular in nature, and we can expand it at as little as 1% at a time or as much as 200%. So we really have got a growth potential there, and that's something that we're looking forward to and being part of the solution.
Okay, so I've got a question from Simon, who asks, do you spread the PV panels across the roofs of the private units?
Yes, so we have to actually spread out the panels across the whole body corporate. Typically, we would use about half to 60% of all the available roof space. And this is done because it's the cheapest way of mounting. If we were forced to use if we were forced to use ground mount structures, it would make the system as much as 20% more costly. And this would be a significant impediment to us achieving that price point and also the cost savings to the residents. So we spread it over the private houses. And then from there, we actually take the electricity into the bulk system, and it can be generated on Unit 15's roof and used in Unit 50's house. So it does open that up to us.
Okay, and I think another question is, why have you elected to go for these complexes or these gated communities rather than individual houses?
So with achieving a critical mass and scale, I mean, that's unfortunately what life is all about. You can't go and spend 200,000 Rand of opportunity cost to close a 100,000 Rand deal. And when we work with body corporates, we can close a single deal, but gain hundreds of counterparties, hundreds of households. So we found it a much more effective client to actually target. And also we're able to come up with a much more creative solution because we're able to take full advantage of economies of scale. We come there with an industrial solution, achieve a price point that is maybe 20% per household of what it would have been had we done individual households. We're also able to spread the load over more residents. It reduces credit risk for the investors and again makes a cheaper product available to the consumer. So it's a win-win for both. Both the investors and the consumers are better off by us working with these large groups of residents in complexes.
So the tech is being tested. The tech, it's over a number of complexes currently across Gauteng. You've got your own control room where you monitor the remotely. You can you're using battery systems, so you can in the main take people off the grid. Unit 1 can generate electricity for Unit 50 if required. And then I want to get now into there seems to be some feedback here. I want to now get into the details of the actual fund, because I think that's what everyone's here to understand, is they want to invest in Rencell, and they want to understand now the technology, what you do, how you do it. But I want to understand how you earn your income. So you have alluded to the fact that you have two types of rental streams. One is that you rent out the solar system, which are the panels and inverters, for a 20-year period. And you lock in at a rate per kilowatt hour, and that increases by CPI per annum, and that's for a period of 20 years. Okay, and the second income stream is where you rent out the batteries, and the batteries over a 10-year lifespan, and that the complex pays you a rental as well. And you then collect the rental incomes from the complex. So am I right in saying that you collect one check per month per complex?
Yes, that's correct. We invoice for these two items, and then we get paid for those two in typically one tranche. We contract with the body corporates because we don't want to take excess credit risk. We don't want to be a debt collection company where we need to actually interact with hundreds of clients or in the near future, thousands of clients in a month to make sure we get paid on time. We actually need to be more reasonable. We need to work with the body corporate. So they take the credit risk. And in the past, they've been very successful with this. From the incorporation, they've on a monthly basis been able to collect